Welcome to This Week in East Brunswick. Today we celebrate Lunar New Year with the Mid-Jersey Chinese School as they celebrate the Year of the Pig at Churchill Junior High School. Angus Gillespie sits down in studio with recording artist Essence Rose to talk about an upcoming gospel concert taking place on the Bush campus of Rutgers University in honor of Black History Month. We also have members of the Arcadian trio joining us in studio to talk about Music Transcends, a concert that will be held at the East Brunswick Community Arts Center benefiting the Lost Souls Memorial Project. And we welcome oncologist Dr. Michael Nissenblatt as he talks about an upcoming program he will present at the East Brunswick Public Library. So stay with us. This Week in East Brunswick starts now.
Hi, I'm Angus Gillespie, your host on East Brunswick Television. I'm here today with Essence Rose, and we're going to be talking about the program called An Evening of Gospel Choirs, and it takes place at Rutgers University on the Bush Student Center, which is 604 Bartholomew Road in Piscataway. It's Saturday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. It's free parking and free admission. It's a wonderful event. It's the oldest, continuous, and largest Black History Month program at Rutgers University. It's sponsored by the American Studies Department, and we have a special feature this year. It's the 100th anniversary of the graduation of Paul Robeson from Rutgers University. So it's called the Centennial of Paul Robeson, and we have no less than 3 local church choirs, and we have our featured soloist, who's Essence Rose. Essence, welcome to East Brunswick.
Thank you, Dr. Gillespie. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your ministry and song and how you got started and what your songs are all about.
Well, the ministry of Essence Rose started about 13 years ago. I am a survivor of domestic violence, and through that ordeal, God gave me songs to remind me that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, that I am still His beautiful daughter. So I am better, not bitter. And I was able to pen these songs to give hope, healing, and light to other individuals, because women and men do suffer from domestic violence at times. So I'm able to share that gift. The name Essence Rose came because God said, throughout all of the thorns that I've gone through in my life, I am still the true essence of who He created me to be, just like the rose I blossom.
Because roses do have thorns.
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
get it. And this has been going on for a long time. I've known you for a long, long time.
Yes.
So the concert at Rutgers, it's partly to honor Black History Month.
Yes.
But it's also to celebrate this traditional African American art form, gospel music.
Right.
So one question I have is the gospel concert at Rutgers, is that a performance or is it a worship service or both? How would you describe it?
I would say it's both. It's rich in tradition. I come from a family who's rich in gospel music, the Lumsey sisters.
Oh.
And they have been a part of the backbone of this program that you have had for us at Rutgers University. So this is what we've done since the age of 4 for me and for them as they were children. My grandmother taught them how to sing, trained their voices. My grandfather taught piano and different forms of how to present yourself on stage and when you're ministering as well.
So the group was called the Lumsey Sisters of Mississippi.
Yes.
Now, I remember a long time ago, back in the 1970s in New Brunswick,
Right.
This is like before internet, there were these things called rainbow posters.
Yes, I remember.
And the rainbow posters were on the telephone poles.
Yes, I remember.
And there were all these upcoming concerts.
Right.
And I noticed they would say, the Lumsey Sisters of Mississippi.
Right.
And then month after month, I would see these concerts because as a scholar, I've always been interested in
Sure.
Black gospel. And I said, how do these girls get up from Mississippi every weekend?
Yeah.
but it turns out they'd actually
Right.
moved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They all relocated. I was actually born in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Yeah.
But my parents, they moved up from Mississippi, so once they were here, they were settled. Right.
So your mom and her sisters,
Yes.
They were born in Columbia, Mississippi.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is a rural area, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
And so the music that they grew up with was passed along from generation to generation.
Yes,
right?
it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
And tell me a little bit about the recording history of the Lumsey sisters.
Oh, wow. Well over 40 years ago. I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
Over 40 years ago, they began recording. They also wrote songs. My grandmother wrote songs. So as they began, the different sisters, they wrote songs for their projects, and they began to record them and to travel across the world and just sharing their gift.
Didn't they have a bus?
Yes, they had a bus with sleepers. There were bunkers on the bus and tables and microwaves and just a nice setting where they could travel with their families and their musicians and travel just across, So I traveled a lot with them, and sometimes I would fill in when one of the members were sick. They would have me fill in as a background singer. Yeah. So I've grown up in this industry, quartet, gospel music, grown up in that.
You're going to be a soloist.
Yes.
And the Lumsey sisters are headliners.
Yes.
But can you tell us a little bit about Mount Calvary Missionary Church? I understand their choir's coming.
Yes, Mount Calvary Missionary Church is actually my grandfather, God rest his soul, Dr. Robert R.L. Lumsey was the founder. He and my grandmother, Emma Louise Lumsey, they founded the church. So when they passed it on to my mother, Apostle Dr. Brenda Lumsey Hicks, who is now the pastor. So our church choir will be in the performance on the 23rd.
And what can you tell us about the First Baptist Church of Southbound Brook?
Oh, wow, they are an amazing choir under the leadership of Dr. Bright, Dr. Earl Bright, Eiley Bright, Dr. Eiley Bright, and First Lady Bright, and they are phenomenal. They're more like an ensemble, but they can sing, and they've been doing this a lot of years as well.
And the Macedonia Free Will Baptist Church of Piscataway?
Oh, wow, another awesome group of singers. The pastor there, he's actually part of the singing pastors. So he's brought his church up in singing and training their voices and just presenting to the community beautiful, great gospel music.
And is it fair to say there's a little bit of competition going on? Each choir is trying to outdo the next?
Maybe more of the musicians. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, we want to make sure we're not singing the same songs. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, it's a peaceful competition.
Very peaceful competition. And a lot of times at the end, we come together. All the choirs collaborate, all of the singers. We collaborate and we do one song, normally Amazing Grace. Okay. So we come together as one.
It sounds like a wonderful event.
It is.
Yeah. I'd like to remind our viewers, this takes place 7 p.m. Saturday, February 23rd at the Bush Student Center, 604 Bartholomew Road in Piscataway. Free admission, free parking. Hope to see you there. Don't miss this big gospel show.
Today is our Chinese New Year celebration. So normally it's actually a couple of days before, but we just celebrate a little bit later. It's the Year of the Pig. So all the program that we created today is actually well performed and organized by our students and teachers. Mostly a lot of them are cultural programs, including some of the programs that our kids put together. And actually it's very interesting. They learn it. It takes them a whole year to practice, like the lion dance. So it's a lot of effort, but it's I think it's well worth the the time and they put together. So I think it's really good. Chinese New Year is actually, they call it the Spring Festival. Basically, and everything about it is that it's the most important part of their calendar. For them, this is probably the biggest. For us, it's the biggest, event for the whole year. Family come together, and they, there's a lot of food, celebrations. There's a lot of cultural factor goes in there. It's like, for instance, the food symbolize a lot of different things. So a lot of different dishes. We plan ahead, and everybody gather. It doesn't matter where how far you're away. You always try to come back and try to celebrate as a family. Churchill Chinese School has a very, very long history. We've been actually, in fact, this is our 56 years in East Brunswick. We don't just service locally, but there's also a lot of township nearby. And so we have a very long history. And student comes in usually on the weekend for 2 hours to learn Mandarin. In addition, if their kids also want to learn some other cultural classes, we offer that too, and that's usually 1 hour. So, so most of the kids that will comes in, they usually take both, a Mandarin for 2 hours and 1 hour cultural class, and we offer from very young age, from kindergarten all the way up to 10th grade. So it's a very integrated, school system that we have in here, and we have a lot of experience in doing that. So. So today I want to thank all our parents, all the students and faculties, and especially our mayor, Mayor Cohen, and along with several members of our Board of Ed attending our celebration today. So we are very grateful, and thank you for their support.
My wish for you is to have a wonderful, happy, and healthy New Year, and to learn from our past and make the present as best as it could be, and the future even better. So thank you.
This is Barbara Reese reporting for EBTV. We're very fortunate to be here today in the studio with members of the Arcadian Trio and their narrator, Diane Goldsmith. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And we also have Ivan Woods, the narrator.
Thanks
Welcome.
for having us.
And so we have an exciting event coming up in March. Tell us a little bit about the trio and what's coming up here in East Brunswick.
Wonderful. The program is called Music Transcends, and it features composers who wrestled with adversity. They may have encountered racial prejudice, religious prejudice, maybe they encountered, they were struggling against tyranny. Their music may reflect this, but it goes beyond the particular circumstances of their lives. It transcends in that it still stirs emotions in listeners who are generations past that music, and it touches their hearts and souls.
Now, when you were explaining to me earlier, is that there's a little special tie here, historical perspective as well, and you as a narrator tie in the music to specific time periods.
My job as narrator is to provide information about the composers and also put them into some sort of historical perspective. We also present visual images that will help tie things together and help draw the audience in a bit.
So, for example, you have a composer whose premiere song is going to be presented in this presentation.
Yes, we're happy that the trio commissioned Kyle Smith, who's a very well-regarded composer from Philadelphia, to write a piece for the trio, and it's about African-American themes. It's based on spirituals. Now, spirituals were songs that were made up by enslaved Africans brought to this country, and the masters didn't want them to talk to one another because the masters were afraid they might try to conspire to escape. So they made up songs, and these songs were coded. They gave information on how to escape. And we're also going to present a really extraordinary piece that features klezmer themes.
Now, this was written by Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich in 1944. This was a time, of course, during the Second World War, when the Russians were finally beating back the Nazis in their stranglehold of certain cities in Russia. And as they beat them back through Poland, they encountered the death camps. And Shostakovich was not Jewish, but he was blown away with this information. He was devastated. And he took those emotions and he wrote this piece. And it is a parody of the kind of klezmer themes that you would hear, the joyous themes you might hear at a Jewish wedding. And I guarantee that anybody who hears this piece will be touched by it.
Now, this also ties into a project here locally. Some of the proceeds are going to benefit the Lost Souls Project. Could you tell us a little bit more about that tie-in?
Sure. The Arts Commission very wisely saw a kinship between our concert and the Lost Souls Public Memorial Project, which is aiming to erect a public memorial in East Brunswick to the almost 200 people who were sold into slavery here in the 19th century by a corrupt East Brunswick judge. And they are hoping to list the names of all these people. And this is a major project. And it is a major change in our understanding about East Brunswick. You know, it's a bit of a shameful episode, but it's something that we all need to take in and reconcile with and understand.
So it's a collaboration.
Yes.
Between the trio and the commission and the project. So not only can you hear some wonderful music, but you're actually supporting a good cause.
Absolutely. Now, the music we've discussed so far is kind of serious, but there's also several lighthearted selections on the program.
To lighten matters, Diane talked about the composer Shostakovich, who was a Russian from the early part of the 20th century. The first Shostakovich piece that the trio is going to play is one that he wrote when he was 17, in the throes of his first love. And then towards the jazz spectrum, going to perform a piece by a African-American composer from the later 20th century named David Baker. Now, he was an interesting character. He wanted to, growing up in the 40s and 50s, he wanted to be a classical trombonist, but during that period, that door was really closed to him because of racial prejudice. So he became a college professor instead. He taught at a college in Missouri and was forced from that position because he married a white opera singer. Fortunately for music, he wound up at Indiana University, a well-regarded music school, and started their jazz studies program, and went from there to become a composer and later a jazz cellist. And the piece he wrote, Boogie Woogie, is really much lighthearted and a lot of fun. He also wrote a piece for cell phone and orchestra.
We're not doing that this time, but maybe next time.
Well, so there's a wide range of music, a little something for everybody.
Absolutely. We span these styles between classical to jazz, and of course, the spirituals in there too.
So for those who are interested in attending, where is it going to be held and when is that going to happen?
Okay. Sunday, March 10th at 2 o'clock. The composer of the new work, Kyle Smith, will be in attendance, and he will also be there for the reception. The tickets are online at eastbrunswick.org/Music Transcends, where you can get all the information about the rest of the program and about the musicians.
And it will be held at the Community Arts Center on Cranberry Road.
So it's an affordable afternoon and a lot of interesting pieces talking about composers who've overcome great adversity and beautiful music.
Absolutely
and
beautiful.
for a
music.
good cause.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here
Thank
today.
you.
It was a pleasure having you
Thank
here
you.
in the studio, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Hello, I'm Karen Parry, Manager of Information Services here at the library and manager of the library's Just for the Health of It initiative. I'm joined here today by Dr. Michael Nissenblatt, medical oncologist. Welcome, doctor.
Thank you.
And he's here to talk about a very exciting and unique program that will be happening here at the library on Wednesday, April 10th from 7 to 8:30, called From Here to Eternity, How to Die of Old Age. What a unique title. Welcome, doctor, and would you tell us a little bit about this very exciting program and how it will help our residents?
Aging is something that is on everybody's mind. Whether we are aware of it or not, we are thinking how long we are going to live. I like to promise my patients that they're all going to reach 100, and I wish that were true. But it's always on everybody's mind whether they have a cancer or don't have a cancer. So what is aging? Aging is a process, a natural process. Not an illness, not a disease, but it's a natural process in which a person who is fit and healthy transforms into a person who is unfit and unhealthy. And along the way of life, we accumulate those conditions that cause that. Things that you know and I know and our viewers know. Things like diabetes, heart disease, congestive heart failure, cancer that's so close to my heart, things such as neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease. These are the things that people accumulate along the way, and they occur with aging. So what can we do about it is going to be the ultimate theme of this project that we're going to present. Aging is a major issue in the United States. If you think about what was the life expectancy in the late 1700s in this country, it was 35. We presume that some people died of gun wounds then, maybe a lot. But in 1900, the average age of expectancy was only 51 years. And in 1950, it finally hit 68, a little above what we now know to be Medicare, which took place 16 years later. By 1985, life expectancy was 74, and by 2000, 78. Right now, we're about 80 for men and 82 for women. The whole population is aging. In 1940, there were 7% of Americans were older than 65. In 1970, it was 13%. Do you know that now nearly 1 out of 5 Americans are older than 65? And so we can expect those conditions that they accumulate along the way to be hitting us. And it's hitting us in our health pocket, and it's hitting us and all the physicians in the care that we wish to provide to people. Well, one of the things we're going to talk about is, does everybody age? Do all animals age? It's an important question. We normally think if you have a pet, that a pet ages, dog years, 7 human years to 1 dog year. We all see our pets age, become less vigorous, become less active. Is that a finding of old age in a dog? Of course. What about other animals? Well, for example, large mammals are animals that are close to our heart. The elephant, the African elephant. Do you know the African elephant has an average age of 120 years of a life expectancy? The animal starts to reproduce at the age of 30, but does not stop reproducing until the age of 90, the age of Sarah in the Old Testament. Can you imagine? We've discovered that elephants have a particular gene, a unique gene, that is in abundance that prevents cancer. Not a single elephant has had cancer. Humans have the same gene. And in us, that gene also prevents cancer if it's in the right amount. But if it's too much, it speeds up aging. We would like people to reach an older age, not to call them elderly, we want to call them welderly. People who are vivacious, people who are virile, people who are very active in their lives. The elephant tells us that they survive and reproduce beyond any other mammal in terms of their age. If you go somewhat west, that is west of South America, to an island owned by Ecuador, you will find on the island of Pinta, one of the islands of the Galapagos, of Darwin fame, that there was the famous Galapagos turtles, the tortoises. There are 3 species, or at least were 3 species. This was the last living species that existed, and that was Lonesome George. Lonesome George ultimately died just a few years ago at the age of 110. They studied his genes, and they found that he had a number of genes that were responsible for genomic instability, responsible for epigenetics, for nutrient transfer, telomerase, and senescence. And those are the same genes that are responsible for aging and also for preventing cancer. There's a very close correlation between cancer and aging, and we seek to learn more about this during our talk. During this talk, we're going to talk about ways to overcome aging. What's one of the most common things that we hear about is dementia. Do you know that dementia can be combated not just by diet or supplements or medications that can have side effects, but we've now learned, Wendy Suzuki, who's a neuroscientist at NYU, has found that there is actually a way of creating proteins that regenerate the brain. Exercise, simple exercise. She has found that by exercising humans and animals, the muscles become an organ that secrete proteins. They emanate proteins that stimulate brain growth. And what part of the brain grows? The part of the brain that grows is the part that's responsible for memory. A protein called double cortin and brain-derived neural factors grow rapidly with simple exercise. I realize that many people can't exercise because of their heart, because of other problems that they might have had with their orthopedics. But everybody can do more than they're doing. I just saw a person yesterday who had major surgery on her hip, could not do lower limb activities, but they're doing exercises with their trunk, with their upper limbs. When they all can do more than we think we can do. Yes, we can diet. Yes, there are certain nutritional and vitamin supplements that might be valuable, and we're going to talk about those. And yes, we can do exercises. That's a very important activity. We can combat and reverse the senescent effects of aging and retain youth into our older ages and become ourselves among the welderly. Fill this library. This is an organization for education, to rejuvenate our brains, to bring knowledge to our community. Join me, join Mrs. Perry, and join all the other people who are going to enjoy this experience.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And I encourage all of our residents to come out. That's Wednesday, April 10th from 7 to 8:30 for this wonderful program being sponsored by the Cancer Support Community Central New Jersey and Regional Cancer Care Associates Central Jersey Division. Thank you, Doctor, and we look forward to April 10th.